Wingcrafter than he would if it was a one of Faith's Shields, which he also has in the deck, because Snapcaster can obviously recast a spell from the yard, but the Wingcrafter is still a card that he can find in a mid-game.
Well, yeah, he's actually not playing Thought Scour. He's just going to be I think he's just using Wingcrafter as a 9th 1-drop to give him a little bit more ways to curve out when he wants to be aggressive. He does have access to a lot of interesting tricks like Mutagenic Growth and Gut Shot and Face Shield and just a couple of mana leaks. Meanwhile, Gillis doing it the old main phase style with Restoration Angel being his only instant speed interaction. So Gillis wins the die roll, leads off with a Razor, Verge, Thicket. And on the right, Ryan Forsberg leads Cavern of Souls on Human, playing Champion of the Parish. Now at this point, I definitely don't think that Gillis has any indication that this is a blue-white Humans deck. It could be blue-white, green-white, red-white. There's just no telling. A Cavern of Souls, presumably on Humans as well, and a champion of his own. Ryan with a Seacrum Coast plays another Champion of the Parish, growing the first. Are we going to see a Delver Secrets? We are. Now this is an aggressive start. 2 champions and a Delver.
I think that this kind of start only became possible with the printing of Cavern of Souls, because you could theoretically draw it, but the mana just wasn't quite good enough to consistently get this kind of opening.
Yeah, without enough dual lands that come into play untapped on turn 1. So Ryan pressing a very quick advantage. At this point, Gillis is looking for anything that can block. I mean, he really just wants to, has to hope that he can slow down this assault. It does look like he might just be too far behind. I mean, the Champion of Lambbolt isn't exactly the best defender. This does seem like a very tempo-based matchup, but despite being on the play, the lack of a good curve has definitely cost him. The Delver Secrets flipping from a Vapor Snag. This Vapor Snag particularly devastating because of how good tempo-based plays are in this matchup. Wow, it's another Delver of Secrets. The two champions continue to grow, and the Vapor Snag isn't even necessary because all of his creatures either fly or are too big. So he's going to save the Vapor Snag for the next thing Gillis does that's meaningful. Unless Gillis turns this around very quickly, he's probably dead in 2 turns. This is just a blisteringly fast start.
He takes it.
Can't even double block because of the Vapor Snag he knows Ryan has. And a land coming into play tapped is definitely not what he's looking for here.
I mean, I don't know if there's anything he can do from this position, period, now.
I mean, he theoretically is supposed to play multiple blockers just to try to chump. But, I mean, he's definitely in one of those spots where he's just trying to play to the very small percentages. Because he has to hope that other Delver doesn't flip. He needs to hope that Ryan doesn't have any meaningful interaction for the flyer that he's going to drop. He has to hope that every one of these spells is resolving so he has enough chump blockers to give him enough time.
And still that insect.
But even from this position, the Vapor Snag is going to knock him to 6, and with 2 flyers, he's dead immediately if the Delver flips. Now, what are we going to see out of the sideboard? What do you like out of the green-white sideboard?
I am not a huge fan of Fiend Hunter, but it's going to come in, and it has useful effects. Usually, it's not long for staying in this world, but it can unflip a Delver
and reset the champion counters.
Yep. Daybreak Ranger is also going to be actually something I do think is pretty solid, and then Oblivion Ring, reasonable, and perhaps Grand Abolisher, just to get rid of the sneaky tricks during your opponent's end step or during your own end step.
So Vapor Snag, probably targeting the champion, is going to allow Ryan to just attack with. Oh no, he already Vapor Snagged. He Vapor Snagged the champion of Lambholt. Now the Snapcaster Mage, flashing back the Vapor Snag. This should seal the deal, knocking Gillis to 5. Oh no, this will knock Gillis to 1 when he after he chumps.
Maybe it'll effectively seal things though, because I do not know that he can do any play at all on the next turn to come back.
Absolutely. Now, interestingly, Gillis also has access to Daybreak Ranger. It's not clear how much red mana he actually has, but the ability to tap to do 2 damage to a flyer, super important. Yeah. He does have 1 Birds of Paradise in the sideboard that he might bring in, just to be able to backdoor the the flipped ability, but mainly he's just going to want the Daybreak to go tap, deal 2 Brian Kibler style to your guy.
Yeah, like I said, I think the Daybreak is much more real than the Fiend Hunter. And I think, you're right, though. I think that Birds of Paradise is absolutely a reasonable thing, particularly because of this, right? You have a deck that is slightly slow. Just dropping a bird, potentially, as a 5th Pilgrim, 5th Avacyn's Pilgrim, to be able to do something a little bit sooner, and then later on in the game, chump block.
Exactly, or pick up a sword.
Yeah,
absolutely. Picking up a sword could be huge for being able to tie up the air.
Now, the problem with that, of course, is that when you're playing against these decks, you have to expect Gut Shot and then Snappy Gut Shot. Snappy Gut Shot is such a pain for Birds decks, just in general.
Meanwhile, Ryan Forsberg, who took game 1 with his blue-white humans Delver deck, has access to, let's see, is he going to want...
Well, what did you see? You saw a deck, you definitely saw enough to know that there maybe are a tokens deck. He didn't actually see the fullness of what Gillis is doing.
No, he saw humans, and he saw some things that, he basically just saw green-white humans.
So I like Sword of War and Peace.
Sword of War and Peace seems reasonable. Timely Reinforcement seems like a real good one.
Timely is reasonable. I like Divine Offering as well. And the reason I like it, even without looking at this list, I'm going to presume that my opponent is a sword deck.
Interesting. And I could see that. Now, do you like cards like Mental Misstep?
Not that much, honestly.
Without having seen the tracker, he doesn't know for sure how many 1-drops or how important they really are.
I would rely on Gut Shot to take care of that same job.
All right. And then finally, Spectral Flight do anything for you? Because the flying is kind of an interesting twist here.
I mean, particularly, he's got Geist, right? So with that, most things are simply not going to be able to handle a Spectral Flighted Geist.
No, he only has 2. He only has the 2, so...
That's a lot of cards to think about. I mean, I don't like Mana Leak very much in this matchup.
No.
I don't...
What about Dismember, though?
I like Dismember.
Yeah, because Dismember, it depends on how big you think the green-white deck's biggest creatures are going to be.
Well,
but
champion, getting a champion.
Either of the champions, the green champion or the white champion.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even know about the angels or the paladins or anything like that.
Yeah.
But he's going to end the tracker. He's going to really have wanted the Dismember afterwards, and I think he'll probably play it.
One of my questions is mutagenic growth. Because, are you going to be getting into fair fights? Are you going to be stopping Gut Shot from your opponent? That's the question of mutagenic growth for me.
I think he's going to take the mutagenic growth out.
That's what I would think, too.
I don't think he's going to put his green-white opponent on Gut Shot, but also, mutagenic growth, relying on mutagenic growth for creature combat is a little shaky. It's much better, it's much more effective against removal spells.
Yeah, countering your Gut Shot.
Absolutely. Or countering people's, like they whip flare to try to kill your Geist of St. Traft, and you punish them.
So that's 4 cards that we have as easy outs. That's the leaks, the mutagenic growths. And
what about Face Shield?
That's a good question. Now, whenever someone plays a card like Faith Shield as a one-of, it says to me that they actually think that it's something that will be generally useful sometimes. And it'll be useful to protect, a random creature from removal or for alpha striking in a late game. So...
I do think it's good against removal, but I think he might take it out because it doesn't protect all of his guys. It's not like a Brave the Elements,
right?
So it's not going to be as good for the Alpha Strike. Like, yeah, it can be, but it's best against removal and things like Zealous Conscript. But in this case, I think against the green-white deck slugging it out, he's going to want to just stick with the.
Well, here's the thing. Also, though, is that if he thinks if he brings in swords or anything like that. No, you're right. I think never mind. Because he has not shown a sword, he's not going to be protecting a sword with Faith Shield.
Right. And Ryan, that he's playing a humans deck, it's going to be interesting. He brings in 1 sword, but it's the only sword he has. So if his opponent puts him on being a sword deck, his opponent's likely going to draw blank cards. But if his opponent imagines, he doesn't have the sword, he could get lucky, draw the 1 sword, and his opponent have just no answer to it. I always love seeing the dimensions like that, where somebody just goes that way most of the way, but then just leaves a little touch to punish the people who anticipated that.
Well, I mean, it's sort of like a classic game theory thing. You're trying to defend the bank with your couple of cops, and then the robbers go the other way.
Now, what do you think about Forsberg not playing Moorland Haunt?
He has decided to go with 4 Cavern of Souls. So that's what he's gaining.
Well, he needs the Cavern of Souls anyway for his creature curve.
I agree with that, but like that's what he's gaining, right? Is 4 caverns.
Well, I guess I'm talking as a 21st land.
Right. I mean, he would have to cut a spell, I think. I mean, part of the reason that the blue-white humans has been a deck that struggled in the past, because even though Champion plus Delver seems really, really awesome in theory, you've got 8 powerful 1-drops. Your mana becomes too inconsistent to necessarily be able to make that work. So if you're going to cut into that mana then in order to fit in the Moorland Haunt, it better be cutting into a spell, not the mana that you already have. So I don't have a problem with that. It might be that a Moorland Haunt might be better than a Faith's Shield. Maybe. I'm not sure.
Now, let's see. Yuya managed to play a couple Moorland Haunts in his 19 land deck.
How many caverns was he playing?
0.
That's
the
big
trick. That is the trick. So, lead off, McCarter plays a Razorverge Thicket, casting an Avacyn's Pilgrim. And this is just about the best start Gillis hopes for. He needs to be able to try to get a little bit of a tempo advantage at the beginning, particularly after the trauma of last game's double Champion, double Delver draw. Gillis playing another Razorverge Thicket. So nice when his land come into play untapped. Is this a Gather the Townsfolk? It is. Avacyn's Pilgrim swings. He knows Ryan isn't going to block. The Champion is too important to Ryan's to archetype. The Champion of the Parish, in basically every deck that plays Champion of the Parish, generally considers Champion of the Parish to be just about the best card in their deck.
Well, I mean, once you're playing a deck that is linear in that way, the turn 1 Champion means so much because you get these crazy starts. You can get these crazy starts that are kind of reminiscent of extended
Wild Mikado.
Yeah, you know, like look at my turn 1 attacking for 3.
Yeah, if I like games where you have Wild Mikado are very different than games where you do not. So Ryan ponders and keeps, and is probably going to commit another human to the board, Delver of Secrets. And after having kept, I'm presuming that the Delver is going to flip next turn. And we see Ryan not attacking with his Champion, valuing his Champion of the Parish greater than both tokens combined. Fairly routine assessment, but still not one to I guess take for granted, simply because there's the possibility of representing Gut Shot. There's, you know, depending on the texture of his hand, he might just really want to get rid of those blockers. But for the most part, the Champion is probably going to end up trumping most of Gillis' cards if it's left unchecked. Overall, this seems like a very challenging matchup for Gillis, just because he's doing many of the same things Ryan is, but he doesn't have the elements of like flying and Vapor Snags and Snapcaster Mages. I mean, but if the game goes long, his advantage is that he's got things like Sigarda and the Tracker and a Hero of Bladehold.
Like, I think his thought is to be a 4 Silverblade Paladin deck, to have 3 swords and 1 Angelic Destiny, and just come out the gates as the aggressor. But Vapor Snag often makes it really hard for a deck to be able to work with that kind of plan, because the game will be over quickly, and the fast tempo of erasing an entire play for 1 mana, even if it's just for a turn, it can be often too much in the race.
Wow, so there's that timely reinforcements we talked about, and Ryan punishing Gillis for having attacked for 1.
What a blow. I mean,
absolutely.
Does that say 25 cents on each of those?
I think it might say 75. It's either 25 or 75. I think you're right, it does say 25. I'm sure we're going to judge his ruling shortly. Now, it's interesting, Delver did not flip, but perhaps Ryan just wanted to be assured that he drew the colored mana so that he'd be able to cast the timely reinforcements that was in his hand. Very reasonable play, given just how great the board position is here. Now, it's also worth noting that timely reinforcements soldiers are not humans.
Yeah, they're simply soldiers.
Absolutely. Another Delver of Secrets commits to the board. When they flip, it's going to be ugly. Talia, a very nice weapon against Delver, particularly since the gut shots are so overworked anyway. Talia slows down the cantrip madness quite a bit. So now we see a 4/4 Champion attack, and this is definitely one of those situations where Ryan is representing Vapor Snag and Gut Shot, and if Gillis commits everything to the board, a single Vapor Snag could be devastating. If he commits everything to the trade, you know? And he elects not to. this point, Ryan has a pretty big advantage with 3 Delver of Secrets, 3 soldiers, a champion up to 4/4, facing down 2 soldiers, human soldiers, just 2 soldiers, a champion, a gather, and a pilgrim and a Talia. So Ryan again chooses not to flip his Merfolk of the Pearl Trident. And what do you think about these green-white decks in general? I mean, their position in the metagame.
I feel like I'm not a huge fan of them for the most part, honestly. I think that you might as well go all in and become a green-white-red deck and try to do a little bit more with your humans in that kind of aggressive way. I think you have to be a human deck in order to make this work. Like, I just don't know that the green-white is enough.
So here we see the Pilgrim blocking and a Restoration Angel resetting him. The 3 Delvers continue to not flip, but getting another human trigger helps Gillis' champion grow, and now he has control over the skies for the time being. Now, how many ways does Ryan actually have to kill a Restoration Angel?
I think just dismember from the board.
I mean, for the most part, he's looking to combine.
Dismember from the board.
He's looking to combine like a gut shot with a Delver of Secrets or something, right?
Combat.
And that's a tough way to do it.
Combat is the only other way. 1 dismember in the board otherwise.
And that's part of the reason we see players doing like what MJ did earlier and adding Doomblades to their Delver deck. You know, sometimes you just want to be able to trump the Angel. Once you know that 75% of the field is playing Restoration Angel. So, champion up to a 5/5 now as a result of Snapcaster Mage entering the board. Now, did he keep with that Ponder?
I believe so.
If so, we're probably going to see an army of 3/2 flyers.
We see a champion from Gillis. At the point right now where champions are kind of underwhelming.
Now, what do you think of Gillis not playing any kind of overrun type effects? You know,
I think his closest is his Sword of War and Peace. I mean, the thing about the overruns right now, there really aren't very many good ways to do that in this moment. Like, equipment is I think the closest you can get to any useful effect.
+1/+1, and all of my guys are infect.
Yeah. I mean, definitely Ben Dempsey has tried to get me to play that a couple of times now and then.
So we have another Ponder. We have a Ponder flipping all of the foil Delvers. I always wonder, what's more real?
Uh-oh.
Double face cards or foils being tournament legal? All right, and now we see a Spectral
Flight. Costs him 3 mana, but
foil
I don't know that
Spectral
he's going to
Flight.
mind so much.
No, this is getting brutal. And he's willing to just power his guys in. Most likely, this means that a Restoration Angel is going to block, and that Ryan will pay 1 mana for a gut shot, right?
I mean, honestly, he doesn't even need to have the gut shot. He can just do the damage.
Oh,
like, look how much damage that is.
Absolutely.
That is 12 damage if the Angel blocks just a Delver.
13, right?
Is it 13?
Absolutely.
3, 6... Oh, yeah, 13.
Right, so Gillis will be on a 1-turn clock.
Oh, another Angel?
Absolutely.
So it'll still be 10 damage.
And that timely reinforcements has given him both the chump blockers and the life to survive any sort of counterplay. This looks real bad for.
I mean, Gillis is not in terrible shape now. Taking 10 damage drops him to 6, but it does mean that Ryan is suddenly in a position of not having a great second attack. Now the gut shot, that might be, he has one in his hand, or he might have one in his hand?
No. It looks like he's just throwing away his guys.
Okay, yeah. So now the gut shot possibility is more important, so if he has it, that's great.
Now, it does seem like his giant champion, his 7/7 champion that might grow next turn, is just going to continue to just bash through these Angels, right? I mean, all he really needs to do on defense is block the champion. And he sees some land, decides to shuffle him back. What is Gillis hoping to draw from this position? I mean, Like, he's unlikely to have boarded in naturalized, right?
I think he really just wants to get a Sword of War and Peace.
Or Fiend Hunter, right?
Yeah, Fiend Hunter would also be excellent.
Yeah, Sword of War and Peace would allow him to just gain some life and put Ryan on a real clock. Plus, he can continue to move the sword over and actually block the champion guy. You know, do the old attack with a guy who has a sword, then move the sword to a guy to block. You're absolutely right. I think a Sword of War and Peace is probably the best possible draw at this position. But either one, he does have a little bit of live counterplay. Ryan, meanwhile, has lots of things to find, you know? Basically, any kind of meaningful trick. Anything from Dismember to Sword of War and Peace to whichever instance he left in, like Vapor Snag or Gut Shot, or any of that. And it is interesting that that one timely has been so valuable. What is the texture of, what would the texture of this game look like if he didn't draw that timely? You know?
Well, I mean, if he didn't have the timely, I think that he would have been overwhelmed on the ground a while ago. And here we see attack from a Champ 6/6 and Thalia, 8 damage.
Doesn't even chump block the champion. Ryan heavily representing miracles every draw for Val.
Have you changed the way that you physically play Magic with the new cards?
Dude, I was representing miracles years ago. Face shield. There's that face shield that we talked about, and this is the Alpha Strike that you talked about. Yep. You were absolutely right.
And he's like, yeah, you're dead.
Pointing out protection from the white. Gillis Stoneface says, okay, face shield resolves.
And maybe he's got, and he then casts another creature just so that a naturalize will not make him not win.
Well, and he's snapcasting his face shield again.
Oh, now he's got...
just to protect it.
Oh, nope. To put it on the Delver.
Interesting. I think I might have just waited to see if there's some flash, but either way, it's a done deal.
And are we going to just throw away these guys in case there is a trick? Okay, I don't know about that attack. I would attack with the stuff that are Faith's Shield. It's all doesn't matter.
Ryan Forsberg takes the match 2-0 with his blue-white humans deck, defeating Gillis McCarter's green-white humans deck.
I was trying to, as we were watching this match, trying to look up Ryan because I know I was watching him earlier and talking with him a little bit at the